And in relation to this discussion that I've been having on the Council of the Gods, I want to share some further research with you from Michael Heiser's doctoral dissertation on the Council of the Gods in non-canonical literature in Second Temple Judaism, and share with you some of the themes that he shares from the Psalms. Now, through the course of time, an intolerant monotheism was understood to be in the Old Testament. It was basically a later theology that was read back into the Old Testament, so that we have this intolerant monotheism which says strictly there really is only one God. No other gods are real. No other gods exist. Monotheism, intolerant monotheism, declares monotheism is only one God. Interestingly, Heiser shows elsewhere in his dissertation that the opposite of monotheism is not polytheism. That's interesting. It's atheism. Monotheism is the opposite of atheism. God as opposed to no God. It's not one God versus many gods. The monotheism that is read back onto the Old Testament reinterprets, and in some cases retranslates, the meaning of the Hebrew. And Heiser presents the Psalms as a witness of the theme that there are other gods besides Yahweh. Not in a blasphemous way. The point of the Psalms teaching about Yahweh's comparison with the other gods is not to refute their existence, but it is to show that the other gods are ineffectual with Israel. Yahweh is Israel's God. He is the one they are to worship. I'm on page 111 of my numbering on Heiser. It's about the divine plurality and divine counsel motifs in the late Psalms. Now, the reason I'm bringing this out from Heiser is because on the internet I've been confronted with this issue. If there is a divine counsel of the gods, then this is opposite of monotheism, and monotheism is the true doctrine. That's not necessarily the case. It's more of a monolatry. They are aware of the existence of other gods, but they worship Yahweh alone. The other gods are for the other nations. Israel has Yahweh. And Heiser says the Old Testament Psalms show this very clearly and powerfully. And the Psalms as a corpus, he notes, dating them is somewhat difficult, and the effort really only pertains to its original form. They've all noted, the scholars that is, that all the Psalms have undergone post-exilic editing. So here we go. See, the redactors, after they got back from Babylon, they took their scriptures and they rewrote them to reflect a later theological belief. Israel's original belief was with the divine counsel and the many deities. Not to worship them, however, but they understood they existed. And this is the idea of in the Psalms, when Yahweh is compared to the other gods, or when they place him above all of the other gods, this is not denying their existence. It is simply showing, in comparison, how much greater Yahweh is. It's especially poignant in Isaiah chapters 40 through 45, where Yahweh says, "There is no other God beside me. I am the only God." And this is not monotheism. The background of the monotheistic character of Isaiah chapters 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, the background is based on the divine counsel, as so many biblical scholars have demonstrated, and Heiser included. He is comparing in Isaiah, he is comparing Yahweh to the idols that the humans have made. The context is human idolatry. Those idols being gods are not gods. I am the God. I am the God in heaven. I am the one that created the very elements of those deities that you put together out of mud and sticks and stone. That is the theme of Isaiah. In the Psalms, we get a very interesting comparison of Isaiah with the other gods. And he says any rhetorical value for intolerant monotheism is undermined by these phrases in the Psalms that compare Yahweh with the other deities. And the reason why is, it would amount, if these other deities weren't real, if they really didn't exist, then comparing Yahweh to them would amount to be comparing Yahweh to a vapor or something non-existent. And that's utterly ridiculous. and he makes his case here on page 111 about that. This is not about other beings that do not exist. This is about Yahweh being better, more powerful, more exalted, and capable of saving Israel as opposed to turning to those other gods. Israel is to stay focused on Yahweh. That is what the Psalms are teaching. Now, the worldview of the Psalms leaves the reader with the conclusion that these comparative statements are meant to be true comparisons with other gods. Why? Because Israel's worldview was based on the divine council of the gods. The councils of the humans that occurred in the tent of the meeting, the tabernacle, Solomon's temple, the second temple, this was imitating the council of the gods in the heavens. There really was such a council. The prophets among the human beings who happened to be blessed with being able to attend that heavenly council, they then came back and declared the decrees of the God to the peoples. That was one of the criteria that made Jeremiah the true prophet, as opposed to the other false prophets who were saying, oh, no, you can rely on Egypt. Babylon won't be able to destroy you. You're fine. You're not wicked. Jeremiah said, has any of those ever attended the council of the gods? E. Theodore Mullen Jr.'s analysis of this in his doctoral dissertation is really good. Heiser discusses that a little bit as well. Their worldview is as a council of the gods. And he uses some of the Psalms. Psalm 86, verse 8 reads, among the gods there is none like you, O Lord, neither are there any works like your works. Interesting how he puts that, isn't it? Among the gods there is none like you. He's not saying they aren't real. He's just saying they can't compare to you and they can't compare to your works, because everything we see was the work of Yahweh. Isn't that interesting? Psalm 95:3. He says, for Yahweh is a great God and a great King above all gods. The Hebrew reads, Al Kol Elohim, above all the gods. It's not denying they exist. It is saying Yahweh is greater. He is a king above all those other gods. Psalm 96, verse 4. For Yahweh is great and deserving of exceedingly great praise. He is to be feared above all gods. Again, the Hebrew, Hu Al Kol Elohim, above all the gods. It's not denying their existence. It is actually showing they existed, but Yahweh is far greater than them for Israel. This is the worldview the Psalms is giving us. It's an astonishing thing, isn't it? Psalm 97:7. All who served images were put to shame. Now see, this reminds us of Isaiah, the 40 chapters, in where he is saying, the idols, they're nothing. They're dumb, they're deaf, they can't hear, speak, they can't do a thing. But Yahweh can. The psalm here, 97:7, says, all who served images were put to shame. Those who boasted in mere idols, even all the gods bowed down to him. Psalm 97:9 says, for you, O Yahweh, are most high above all the earth. You are exalted far above all gods. It doesn't say you only exist. It says you are exalted above all the gods. Na'aleta al kol Elohim exalted above all of the other gods.